Welcome to Collage Live, everybody. Today we kick off a series of virtual programs that invite the collage community to come together and learn and talk and connect with one another. And tonight we celebrate this new adventure and the opening of the fundraising exhibition in support of Collage Institute and hear from some of the artists in the exhibition. But before we do that, I wanted to say a few words about how and why Collage Live came together and kind of what the motivation is behind this series and of programs. So if you haven't noticed, a few months ago, pretty much the entire world went under lockdown. COVID-19 pandemic was unfurling back in March, around the time that we were about to really get going with the run up to Collage Fest New Orleans. And the great pause caused us to postpone Collage Fest New Orleans until there was a time when we could safely meet in that community. But we didn't want to stop. We didn't want to just stop the momentum we had or what we were doing. And so we decided to pivot towards this series of virtual programs. There was just one problem. I live in real time. I don't like the online stuff. I like seeing people in person. I like visiting art in person. And the thought of doing a virtual series was a huge barrier for me in terms of the work moving forward. But that said, we got to work and we've recruited 37 presenters in 3 continents across 6 time zones, working with 5 different exhibitions. In addition to curators and artists and writers, we pulled together this series that we're calling Kolaj LIVE Online. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the different programs we're going to be offering, and our lovely assistant Chris Byrne is going to put some images on the screen. In rehearsal earlier today, we said anytime there was a pause or a glitch, that we should make it a drinking game. Thank you, Danielle Cole, for that suggestion. But if you are playing along with the Collage Live drinking game, by all means, take a sip now. And while those images are coming up, I'm going to start a little bit. Our next event is tomorrow, which appropriately is a Collage Fest New Orleans virtual reunion, or Tales from the Bayou. And we're going to have over half a dozen artists who will share stories about that event and talk a little bit about what the event Collage Fest New Orleans was and what it meant to them. The next event after that, on July 27th, we're going to have an event called Plagues, Monuments, and Going Big. And this event's, we're going to visit a hayfield in Vermont, where Eve and Steve are going to show us how they've taken their in-camera collage and blown it up really huge. They're also going to talk about a work they made in response to the pandemic called A Wonderful Play. And that event will also be a book launch for a book about that artwork. After that, we go to the Collage Street Crew. This is a group that formed in New Orleans in 2018 and met again in 2019. And they're going to host an event where they talk about public space, street art, and collage. And they're going to do a survey of contemporary collage artists, maybe talk about the history a little bit. And they're also going to pose a challenge to those folks attending that event to go out and create street art. And street art in this moment in time has been has had an interesting reception by communities that have otherwise been shut down. After that, we're going to head to Lemieux Galleries in New Orleans, where we meet Christy Wood, who's celebrating her 20th year as a gallerist. And she's going to show us some of the collage artists in her gallery and talk about what it is that draws her to them. Then after that, the Mystic Crew of Scissors and Glue, which is the New Orleans collage group, is going to do a live collage of a 6-foot obelisk at the Ogden Museum of Southern Art. Over the course of 4 hours, you'll be able to pop into the live stream. Every hour or so, a different artist will talk about what they're doing. And this wonderful mock-up from Christopher Kurtz is both a wonderful mock-up, but not a full representation of how awesome that 6-foot obelisk will be in the atrium of the Ogden Museum. Following that, we've got War is an Eclipse. This is an exhibition at the Thompson Gallery. We will walk through that exhibit with the curator, Todd Bartell, who folks may remember from Collage Fest New Orleans, or the pages of the magazine where he just completed a series on Uncollage, and the artist, Chicago artist Kasini. And they will talk about the work in that exhibit and how collage plays in a multimedia type environment. From there, we head to 516 Arts in Albuquerque, where we're going to hear from Kike Congrains. Kike's been our Latin American Collage Fellow at the Collage Institute this year. He's been filing reports on collage in Latin America, and he's going to give us an update and a presentation on the 6 countries that he's been focusing on. And then after that, we're going to stay at 516 Arts in Albuquerque, and we're going to have an opening of an exhibition called Radical Reimaginings. And this is an exhibition where myself and Susan Sabarge and the folks at 516 Arts have invited a few dozen collage artists to reimagine what the world will be in the next coming years in light of everything that has been going on. The event that follows that is the Collage Cast. And this event, this is a pilot screening and discussion. This is coming from Daniel Lynn. And it really asks the question of what would a television show about collage look like? And they've put together a sample episode that we're going to screen. The episode's about 20 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for discussion. Next is Collage Beyond the Art Form. This is a interesting panel that started as a discussion around our collage as therapy that broadened to how collage is used in working with refugees, in hospices, as education, and as all forms of forms of community engagement. And we have folks from Spain and London and the US and Canada all kind of weighing in on the different ways that they use collage to engage the community. The next event is the Future of Collage. This is going to be a conversation between myself and the Weird Show's Maxamatic. We've been having a lot of good, interesting conversations lately, and we want to have this conversation in public where we talk about what the future of collage movement is, what the future of the art form is, and also how the impact of technology will be as we move forward in time. The next event is the Cat and Paste Workshop. This is led by Daphne Steinberg, and she is going to lead a brief presentation on cats and art history and collage, and an interactive workshop for folks who want to attend. For those that have ordered their program book, there is a Cat and Paste cutout page in that book that one can use, or one can kind of use their own material. Then we have 2 more events to wrap up the series. One is an international roundtable of artists focusing on women in collage, really talking about both women in collage as both the subject of the collage, but also as the makers of the collage. And followed by that, we will have a workshop with David Wisher and Lisa Wicca, when they're going to talk about navigating digital and analog worlds, but also about the intersection of collage and printmaking. And so that's a quick rundown of the series. And I want to just say a few words before I turn it over to Christopher Kurtz about why these events, why this series, why what we're doing. The world is a tough place right now, and there is too much pain and suffering to a new Marie, but I know this. Time moves all things forward. This series will end on September 30th, and another issue of Collage magazine will be out. The series will end roughly a month before the American election, which a lot of us are waiting to see what happens next. But in that time, we're also still facing this pandemic. And I have to believe in science. I believe in science and I put my faith and trust in science. Today, there are 178 COVID-19 vaccines in development, 2 of which are in phase 3 and 13 that are in phase 2. At the end of this series, many, many more will be in phase 3 and phase 2. We are progressing at an incredibly rapid pace on solving this problem. Science will solve this problem for us. But I also believe in humanity's ability to move forward. Science will find a vaccine for COVID-19, and our life will be able to return to something similar to normal. But we don't go backwards. What scientists can't do is fix our social divisions. It can't help us care more about each other. It can't fix the systemic breakdowns that the pandemic has revealed. Science will not find a vaccine for racism, and no pill will make Black Lives Matter. That work is for the rest of us to do. And that is where artists have a role to play. John Lewis, who passed away this last week, said, if you're not hopeful and optimistic, then you just give up. You have to take the long, hard look and just believe that if you're consistent, you will succeed. This is the work of artists. Our job is to make the unseen seen. Our job is to make the revolution irresistible. Our job is to imagine new possibilities. That is what art does in the 21st century, and that is what I think our mission is. And so as we move into Collage Live, I hope that we prepare ourselves in these next couple months to serve our communities, because our communities need art. They need a new way of thinking. The world is fundamentally changing, and we can help them both understand that change and imagine new possibilities. That is why Collage Magazine exists. That is why Collage Institute exists. That is why Collage Live Online exists. This series would not be possible without the Institute's supporters. The Institute is incredibly grateful for the Conyers for a founding donation that allowed us to organize and get off the ground. And our work is supported by the members of the Silver Scissors and Golden Glue Society. These are subscribers who pledge an amount and receive something in their mailbox each month. And this series would not be possible without the work of Collage Magazine's associate editor, Christopher Byrne, who does all the technical stuff that I can't bring myself to do, and also Collage Institute coordinator, Christopher Kurtz, who I would like to invite now to come and say a few words about this series and the fundraising exhibition.
Hi, everybody. If you don't already know me, I'm Christopher Kurtz. I'm the coordinator for Collage Institute. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's driving me to do this. I mean, Rick already said a lot of great things about why we're doing this. But for me, I think, part of it was getting to work with all of these different people to create this Collage Live Online series, help making their ideas come to life, giving them a platform for their voices to be heard. And it's really been great getting to hear all their ideas and seeing the way that what was really just a bunch of brainstorming ideas on a Google Doc turned into this whole program. And now we're creating this space for people to stay connected during this time. Collage has cultivated a huge community over the years already, and now we also have this opportunity to bring even more people into the fold. And so that's very exciting. And I know that Rick was disappointed that his original idea for Collage Live, which was going to be in physical spaces, didn't get to happen exactly the way it did, and it will eventually happen. But I also think that this online version is just as important and has its own benefits. I think that we're giving people who wouldn't otherwise have a chance to attend those physical programs, they get to log on and see what we're doing and hear what we're doing and participate just as well. And to that end, we created this exhibition fundraiser to help support these programs and support Collage Institute in general. And to me, that brings me great joy. I love seeing artists make money. And it also fills my heart to know that they want to support the Institute as well with their art. And when we started developing the fundraiser, we talked a lot about what it means to ask artists to support Collage Institute with their art. Personally, I believe that art has intrinsic value. It's you know, the creative labor involved alone. And I think that these artists who have donated half of the profits of their art, it's the same as, you know, offering to volunteer for a charity or running a marathon for a cause. And so, you know, it's no less significant of a donation at all. I really appreciate everyone who's contributed. And hopefully also we're giving these artists an opportunity to broaden their network of fans and buyers at the same time. And in purchasing any of the pieces in the fundraising exhibition, you'll be supporting the programs of Collage Institute, such as the residencies, the fellowships, and the artist labs that we've already started, and are continuing to cultivate these artists' experiences and ideas and turning them into something tangible that an audience can relate to. So in some instances, as for Zach Collins' residency, for instance, we're going to turn that into a book, a retrospective of his career. And that will allow people a view into the life of an artist. And one of the projects I'm most excited about is the Collage Community Directory. I've reached out to several collage communities around the world, and in turn, they've reached out to me also. And we have a website that you can find through Collage Institute's site that collects all of these communities that we've located. And we have a book coming out in October that's going to detail them as well. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for participating.
And thank you, Christopher. So let's take a look at this exhibit and let's check out some of the art in it. We have some of the artists here tonight, and when those that are here, we're going to bring into the panel. Let's see. Our first artist is Michael Church, and I'm going to wait for Chris to scroll over a little bit. And Michael currently lives in and works in Little Rock, Arkansas, and he's drawn to images that elicit a feeling and anything that depicts the condition of being human. Next work in the exhibit is Daniel Cole, and Daniel Cole is a Toronto-based artist who creates playful collages through an assembly of original vintage graphics. And Danielle's been attending Collage Fest New Orleans for the last couple of years now, and I believe she's here to say a few words about her work.
There you go. Hi. I just want to say thank you so much to Rick and so much to both the Christophers. Rick, I was nodding my head the whole time you're speaking, and I am going to talk a little bit about my work as soon as I can. There we go. I'm going to talk a little bit about my work. So the work is called A Plague on Both Your Houses, and it was created as part of a reflection during the early days of the pandemic on the grief and the despair that couples kept apart must be feeling. And also in many ways, it's about the fear I felt around how many people would be interpreting the information we were all getting about the pandemic. After all, Romeo and Juliet is a story about death by miscommunication. I was supposed to be in Rome the day in March when Canada shut its borders and went into isolation. In late February, I got an early warning to cancel my plans delivered by 2 doctors who refused to shake my hand on parent-teacher night. And they took time to explain to me the dangers of being stuck in a foreign country during a pandemic, while we also talked about how great their daughter was as one of my art students. The image in this piece is from the 1950s, and it's from a vintage magazine I bought in Rome while I briefly lived there at the British School in Rome during a year I took off from work just to make art. The guns came from the same year of travel by way of the USA. And I need to say that working with hole punches was an inspiration I derived from 2 artists. And one is Lizzie Gill, who frequently uses magical little hole punched elements. And the other artist is Jill Stoll, whose work I first saw at Collage Fest. Her incredibly intricate work was punched out with punched out patterns has stayed in my heart. And I'm so honored that we are in this show together. Thank you so much. And back to you, Rick.
Thank you, Danielle. And next we have work by Vanessa Compton. Vanessa is a Vermont artist who's lived in Dakar and Senegal and studied the kora and its influence on hip hop music and the kumasami in Ghana, where she learned palm wine guitar with a living master, Kunimo. And she's got this work featuring 2 polar bears. The next piece is from Kike Congrains, from Lima, Peru. Again, he's our Latin American Collage Fellow at the Collage Institute. And then next we have Ben Danino, and Ben is here tonight and going to say a few words about his work. In 2018, Ben attended the first Collage Fest New Orleans, which inspired and encouraged him to get more serious about his work. Over the last 2 years, he's shown in over 20 exhibitions worldwide. And this is one example of his the collages he makes entirely in a book. Ben, would you like to tell us about this piece?
Yes. You can hear me okay? Okay,
Yes.
great. Well, first, congratulations on this series to Rick and the Chris's. This is going to be amazing. It's sad that I won't be in New Orleans this summer to visit with all my amazing collage artist friends, but this will be just as amazing. My work that I have included in this exhibition is one of my collaged excavated books. I call them biblio-excavations. I take old books that would usually be discarded, old textbooks, how-to manuals, anything with interesting illustrations. I leave the illustrations where they are in the book, back them with cardstock and acid-free bookbinding glue, and just cut out all the extraneous parts to create a collage that was ever present in the book. I seal the text block shut so just the cover opens, and so it's like a little 3-dimensional sculpture. I like that it keeps the integrity of the book, so if you get bored looking at it, you can just close the cover and put it on your bookshelf with the rest of your library. And this specific book, I was just really drawn to the colors of the illustrations. It's one that I made last year, and I'm honored to be in this exhibit with so many amazing artists and people that I now consider friends. And yes, Collage Fest the last 2 years has totally changed my life. And I will be discussing that a little bit more. I'm going to be in tomorrow night's session also, and I'll be discussing how it's really affected me in such a positive way. And I'm honored to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Next, we have a work by David Crunel. David is a multidisciplinary artist from Brussels, Belgium, and is mainly developing his work in visual art, photography, graphic design. His lenticular collage, Electrum 47, is on the cover of Collage 29, the current issue. The next work is Michael Payan. And Michael is a collage artist from New Orleans with a passion for print and a love of old books. His dense compositions and meticulous hand-cut materials are sourced from heavily illustrated antique books and ephemera. And Michael was on the cover of Collage 15. Next, we have another New Orleans artist, and Daniel Cole mentioned Jill Stoll. She's originally from Michigan, lives in New Orleans now, and Jill gathers what is lost and broken, be it the metaphorical shards, sparks, and husks, or the physical family snapshots, printed ephemera, handheld objects, in an effort to repair and make them whole again in her studio. We have this lovely piece from hers. Next is another Vermont artist, Athena Petra Tassiopoulos, who is a mixed media collagist and a fine art photographer. And her work 3 graces this exhibition. Next, we have Bianca Walker, who is a studio artist from Berkeley, California, who is currently practicing in Louisiana. She's going to be one of the artists in the August Artist Lab with Tulane University. And Chris, let's just take a moment and show everyone what happens when you click on that little black dot, because if you're curious about learning more about these artists, it brings up a little bubble of information. All right, let's talk about Brett Bretthauer's work. This is a photograph in the exhibition. Brett is going to join us for the August Artist Lab at Tulane University as well. This photograph is part of a series Brett made during the 3 months he spent walking and photographing the border between Texas and Mexico. I know for myself, I'm very curious to learn more about his practice and also where his interest in collage is, particularly using this great deal of source material that he has. And next up is Andrea Bergay. And Andrea is a Brooklyn-based artist and the founder and editor of Cut Me Up magazine, a participatory collage magazine and curatorial project. This project debuted at Collage Fest New Orleans in 2018 and has been going strong ever since. And if you have a moment, definitely check out Cut Me Up. And Andrea and Clive Knights, for the last 2 issues of Collage, have been sharing their thoughts on excavation and building collage through the removal of content and material. And that's been a fascinating thing to watch unfold in the magazine. I feel like I'm doing a little bit of an infomercial, but I do want to give a shout out to these great artists. So I appreciate everyone bearing with me a little bit. Next up is Haley Sanborn. Haley is an artist who participated in the Pandemic Artist Lab that took place in June. A group of artists got together and we tried to break down the ideas behind the pandemic and basically propose artwork that spoke to them. Now, this is earlier work from Haley, but the proposals for that came out of that artist lab are currently being reviewed and being reviewed by the Institute. Haley's a fiber artist and sculptor who lives and works in Baltimore, Maryland. And in addition to her art practice, she works as a community organizer. And then next up is Paula de Calle. And this is a work, Paula de Calle is a Colombian-American interdisciplinary artist whose work examines home, borders, identity, and nostalgia. And in June, she participated in the Pandemic Artist Lab from her home in San Francisco, California. Part of Paula's process is to research and gather images online that speak to her experience growing up as a Colombian American. And then she collages these in this style she has. Next up, we have Guillaume Chiron. Guillaume is a French multidisciplinary artist who's passionate about drawing and painting and publishing fanzines and organizing concerts. He has published 3 books of his collage, some of which we've talked about in the magazine: Magna Labaden par les débuts, Apprendre avec des pincettes, and the 2019, his most recent work, Oops. And we're happy to have a work of his in the exhibition as well. Next is a work by Katie McCann, who is an English collage artist living in Berkeley. And followed by that, we have a work by Olivia Decamp. Olivia was born in Paris, grew up in Brussels, and is now calling Berlin her home for the better part of the last 2 years. And selections of her Botanical Catwalk series were on the cover of Collage 19. And last but not least, we have a work by Eve and Steve. They're a duo made up of best-selling author Eve Schaub and artist Stephen Schaub. And Stephen Schaub creates an in-camera collage where he often exposes creates a collage by exposing an entire roll of film that he then develops and prints as a 3-foot by 30-foot large artwork. We're going to be hearing from them next Saturday when they take us to their Hayfield gallery and give us a tour of their studio. Now, the Schaubs, I believe, are here, and they're going to chime in and tell us a little bit about this work and their process, which I've shorted because after Steve prints the work, Eve goes and writes text on the work.
Hi, Rick.
Hi, Rick. Thank you.
Hi, Steve and Eve.
How are you?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you. So,
Can you tell us a little bit about this piece?
sure. This particular piece is made, the camera I use is a retrofitted 1950s Kodak Brownie camera. And all of my work deals with, and our work a lot of times deals with an unresolved narrative, sort of the start of a story. And so I physically modified the lens in this really inexpensive plastic camera to give this very sort of soft quality, very central point to focus. And then the image is actually printed directly on a panel of maple. So it's not a maple transfer. The maple panel is physically run through the Da Vinci printer, which is a 12 black carbon printer, and printed actually on the wood. So the wood grain becomes part of the piece, and then Eve takes it from there with the writing.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, Steve will forward me the imagery to consider, and I'll come up with sort of a meditation on the imagery, you know, taking into account things that he's talked about with me, and also my own, you know, personal connection to the piece. Most of the work that Steve and I make, and that Steve has made prior to our working together, features members of our family as the models. So in this particular piece, this is our daughter Greta, yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have 2 daughters. And so frequently Steve will photograph Greta or our other daughter Ilsa or me or some combination thereof. We show up a lot in our works.
And this is actually for us, as you know, Rick, a very small piece. It doesn't take up the entire gallery space, or, you know, it doesn't require 50 feet of wall space. So it's unique in that way. And all the work that Eve and I do are all made as one-of-a-kind pieces. We don't really believe in
Yes, this
additioning.
is the only artwork of its kind.
Right.
There is no other. This imagery does not get repeated elsewhere.
No. And we chose to finish it in an environmentally correct harvested mahogany frame with a satin stain and multi-coated museum glass. So you really get a sense of the piece of wood in person. As the light moves across the surface, because of the grain of the wood, it takes on a golden tone and it shimmers more like silk. You actually see it on a wall.
Thank you, Eve and Steve. We appreciate you popping by tonight.
Of course.
That everyone is our formal program. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to visit the Kolaj LIVE Online website. Check out the programs. There are links to the exhibit. There's also a link to the Collage Castel, which is a collaborative collage project we're going to be running through Kolaj LIVE. You can also check out the program book, which is essentially like a magazine completely dedicated to this event, with more little articles about each of the events that we're having. And to close this out, we're going to hang out for a bit. The chat is open. We're going to invite the other artists and folks involved to occupy space on the scene. And we'd like to hear if you have questions or thoughts or things you want to share. We can also kind of like a radio call-in. We can turn on your mic and you can share a thought or ask a question with you. Just raise your hand or let us know that you're around.
I just want to address, there was one question in the chat asking about where to view and purchase the works from the exhibition. Christopher Byrne posted a link to the exhibition, and then there's an email on that page that you can send any inquiries to.
We have a question from Ben, from Cynthia Brisson. Can we turn on Cynthia's mic, or I can read the question, or Ben, can you see the question in chat? Cynthia says, I met you at Collage Fest 2018, and I'm very interested to hear more about your direction, your recent direction and focus. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And you might want to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, and I will discuss this a little bit more tomorrow, I think. But yeah, 2018, the first Collage Fest was just amazing for me. I met so many encouraging people and inspiring people. Every day, I've just on Instagram and online places, mostly Instagram and Facebook, I see work by people that just like blows me away. And many of those people I now consider my friends from Collage. And yeah, originally going to that first Collage Fest, I went to show how I make my cut up books. But now my work has kind of become much more, I still work on the book, 3D book work, but it's most of my time is spent on more 2D collages. I do a lot of different types of collages, abstract, more traditional like narrative type things, but I've also been working with like slide film, doing mini collages. I've been working in a variety of areas, and I wouldn't say I have a focus right now. It's just whatever I feel like working on that day. I have like a variety of different things I'm doing, working with old National Geographics, specifically splicing pages together in a specific way. I kind of make a bunch of challenges for myself and just kind of whatever I feel like working on that day, I go for. I do have a few things planned that are bigger projects. I have a book that I want to make specifically my slide work. And I've been trying to work that out, but like since COVID hit, I really haven't had as much time as I normally would in the studio. I have 2 young kids, and it's pretty much been 24/7 dealing with taking care of them at home. So it's just my practice has kind of slowed over the last couple months, but I've just been amazed by everything that Collage has kind of given me. Collage Magazine, Collage Fest, and just like these amazing artists that are just so giving. And I want to just thank everybody that I've met through this. And Rick, thank you.
Well, thank you, Ben. It's been wonderful watching your career the last 2 years. Daphne is asking Danielle, could you share how you have been making collage kits for your neighborhood? And do you have any suggestions how other folks could do that in their neighborhoods?
Oh my gosh, I did not pay Daphne to ask that question. Celebrating like my collage endeavors. And I'm so excited for your cat workshop, Daphne. It's actually a really relevant question because many of us here are collage artists, and you're not shopping for yourself when you're putting together a kit for a community. So before, like the day Canada was shutting down, we went to a small town used bookstore, and I was like, cat book, horse book, outer space book, dog books, and photographic books, stuff that I don't work with at all, because I wanted collage books for adults and children. And each kit had a lot of ephemera, because I think that is such the pleasure of collage. And I would put like half a National Geographic or half fashion magazine, although fashion magazines are a disaster when you look through them as a woman and an artist and a human, because I don't actually draw from fashion magazines. So I'm sitting here like trying not to put 10 pictures of women like whatever in these kits for people, but they needed, my base for giving an untrained collage artist, because we're all collage capable, was that they should have bodies, they should have something to create a background, foreground, middle ground, background. They should have animals. And we always, when I put out my collage sign, it had the human body, animal head examples, because everyone can do that and go like, I'm amazing at this. And so there was a lot of that. And I literally I now am going full professional hoarder. We just bought more containers the other day because now I have my community kit boxes, which are just, again, stuff that I don't like. It's not 200 fashion magazines are not for me. But interestingly, Daphna, once you start doing it, people in the community have actually started contacting me and giving me stuff, and I'm gonna almost cry, because one guy gave me like 30 magazines from the 1940s, which is all for me, and some for you. So that's kind of how I do it. And I know Renee Nixon, who's in Seattle, has done it, and I follow her, and and her artwork is beautiful if you're not familiar with it. And I think other people are doing lots of things, but other people are definitely doing it as well. And I would just curb them, and then people would often contact me, I don't live near you, and I would just put them aside on the porch with their name on it and we'd organize a pickup time. So people actually started coming in from outside the community. I've applied for a couple of micro grants to try to get them further out to more marginalized communities. I live in a pretty good neighborhood. I want to get them more and more and more out, but sad to say, in September when school starts, we'll probably be back into quarantine, and I'll start them again, and I'll figure it out again. But Daphna, thank you for asking that question. I'm so excited for your cat workshop. Yeah. Okay.
I'm also really excited for that cat workshop. Ben, someone asked if you ever move images around when you're excavating your book. I think they mean do you ever cheat?
I'd say 75% of the books I've made, the images stay exactly where they are. It's kind of important for me to try to keep them as exact as they were. I every once in a while will tweak something. If the composition is just off, or if there's an image that's just so amazing, but it's kind of hidden, I'll cheat and cut it out and keep it in the exact space, but move it maybe 20 pages forward in the book so it's not obscured, just because I'm like, oh, this is too great to keep hidden. But in most cases, I keep them 100% where they were. I think the book that we have for sale in the exhibit, Our Human Body, there might be one image that I tweaked because it was just hidden a little bit. But I can't remember. I made it last year, and I've made so many of them that they all kind of get blurred in my head. But I have a feeling that that's almost completely exact, but I might have moved one or maybe two little things.
There's something about the magician never revealing his tricks in that. Well, I want to give a shout out to Jane Jones, who's watching from London, where it's 1 a.m. And I will say that we tried like crazy to work out time zones when we were putting this series together. And the first folks to fall away were kind of Australia. And then we realized we couldn't really do things at 9 a.m. And but we appreciate that this community is all around the world, and it's nice to kind of hear from folks on the other side of the Atlantic. And I just also want to just say that the impetus behind the Collage Castel was this collaborative project that we have. We'll be starting off. So the idea is that in the program book, there are these cards that you make a collage on, and then you send to another collage artist who finishes it. It's a pretty standard collaborative type collage project. And then you email us an image. You get to keep the one you finish. But if you email us an image, you can, we're going to publish it online in an online exhibition. But the name of that event, first of all, it's semi-inspired by the Collage Tanzkart, which is something we do at Collage Fest, where folks get a card. I think Danielle's going to demonstrate it. And there is a card with a list of artist names, and your job is to find those artists through the course of the event. And part of what we try to do at Collage Fest is mix it up. So like get past the hierarchy, and you have to go around being like, are you on my card, kind of thing. And so we wanted something that created this human interaction. But I'm also really intrigued by this human tower event that takes place in Catalonia. And it's basically a group of people during festivals coming together and building this human tower that is like 3 or 4 stories tall. And for me, it is the perfect metaphor of humanity. And so we're gonna wrap up, but we have a YouTube video we're gonna play out. The chat will remain open for another 15, 20 minutes, because I think Cindy has another question for Ben in there, and we can chat a little bit while this video plays. Christopher Bird, if you want to start queuing that up. Because I really do feel like that human tower is that metaphor for humanity. And if there's anything we have to do right now, it's reinforce our humanity. I will also warn you, if your volume is way turned up, you will either love this music or hate this music. But I say roll with it anyway. It's a fascinating thing, and nobody gets hurt in this video. It's completely safe to watch. So thank you everyone for coming. I look forward to seeing folks tomorrow at the Tales from the Bayou event, and I look forward to seeing everyone the following Saturday, where we'll spend some more time with Eve and Steve. And I look forward to spending time with you all for the next 3 months. We'll see you on the chat. We'll see you in social media. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Take us away.